Hi, and thanks for joining us today. We're going to talk about the challenging insurance industry in Southern California and how it's affecting homeownership. I'm Crystal with Sheppard Properties, and today I'm joined by Nicole Scott from Goosehead. Thanks so much for being here. Appreciate it.
Thanks for having me.
So I wanted to ask you some questions about the insurance industry that'll hopefully be helpful to our clients who are either buying, selling, or already own a home. If you can tell me what's changed over the last few years with homeowners insurance, especially here in Santa Clarita.
So I think ultimately it's changing for the better. I obviously the past couple of years have been challenging.
Oh my goodness, yes.
For everybody, no one with rates that have gone up, not affordable, companies that are non-renewing,
right.
Clients has been a significant issue, carriers that are leaving the state of California. So that's been felt statewide, even nationwide.
Absolutely.
So I feel like we're coming out of that finally.
Wonderful.
Yes. So very good news. There are some new carriers that have entered into California. And then some carriers that did close 2-3 years ago that feel more comfortable entering into the space, or at least are having talks about entering in by the end of this year.
Oh, absolutely. Did we have some carriers who returned at the beginning of this year? I thought I heard 3 or 4 large carriers did come back.
So not that I'm aware of as far as large carriers. We've had some new carriers that have entered in, and then we have some carriers that previously had some closed zip codes that have reopened, and then some that have just reopened altogether or added additional insurance carriers under their umbrella.
Oh, okay.
And then that has significantly helped.
Very good. So quite a few major carriers left California. Can you tell us a little bit about why those carriers left?
I can. So with COVID, that really caused a lot of different issues in different areas. One, as far as labor, the cost of labor, lack of construction materials, that really hit a lot of insurance companies hard as far as having to order them overseas and taking months for them to come in. That drove up the cost. Mm-hmm. You had increased claims. So that I think was the start of it. And then in 2022, we had carriers like Nationwide and Allstate were some of the first carriers to close down. And then I think that caused other carriers to be concerned. And then it was a ripple effect. I think we lost probably 20-25 carriers within a month. It was really horrifying. And then the issue with that is that as the pool of insurance carriers started to get smaller, it put too much pressure, I guess, on those carriers that they didn't want. I think we had 8 at one point, and then it was just with all the insurance policies going with those, it was just too much. So they started to max out on their zip codes. And then they needed to close because they would only be able to insure a certain amount of clients per zip code, and then they exceeded that really quickly.
So too much exposure in any given area is something that they're not interested in taking on.
Exactly.
Gotcha.
So that, I think, was really why the ripple effect happened so quickly, is that started to occur. And so we were left at one point with pretty much just California Fair Plan.
Wow. Okay. And then something that ties into that that I wanted to ask about, because this definitely affects both buyers and sellers, is the non-warrantable situation, meaning a condo complex or a townhouse complex or any community that has an HOA where the coverage for the exterior of the building would be covered by the HOA's policy. Those policies, a lot of them we're finding are uninsured or underinsured rather. And when they're underinsured, now lenders are concerned about their exposure with the community and the insurance there. And a standard lender, someone who does a conventional loan or anything Fannie or Freddie backed, won't do a loan in that community. Mm-hmm. So now we have to look at special loans with higher interest rates, harder loans to achieve, larger down payments needed. So if you can talk a little bit about, for example, these complexes that have too little insurance for the community. how that impacts buyers and sellers.
That was more of an issue, at least from what I saw, about a year ago. I feel like it's not as significant as an issue. I think lenders are getting creative when they see that that happens. And then they'll typically work with us of what they need to see in order for that loan to get approved. So
I see.
Sometimes it's just a matter of us increasing the amount of coverage, where normally we may just do $100 a square foot, where we have to insure it maybe more closely to what a home would be insured, which is 300
Right.
plus. So there are some ways that they've gotten around that. But and then there are some carriers that, and then a year ago or so, we barely had any carriers for condos. So
Right.
that has changed as well. So I feel like that's more positive, but I feel like it's not as much of an issue as it was.
Good to know, because we are still seeing some real challenges with this. I think what folks would like to know, and definitely we'd like to know, is as these carriers return, do you see the possibility of more competition in rates and more interest in covering these zip codes that have less interest, perhaps because of their exposure to brush and hillsides? Do you think that these rates might potentially come down to where the HOAs can get the coverage that they need to be properly insured?
For condos?
For like condos and townhomes?
I do. We actually just had Bamboo is one of our major carriers out here. Just today, it was either today or yesterday,
wow.
started offering condo policies. So this is huge in our
Wow.
field. So it's a really good sign, I think, of what's happening in insurance as far as their confidence and wanting to take on that additional exposure and risk. So yes, I do see that changing. I think, and because they're such a huge carrier, I think that other carriers will see that, oh, okay, well, Bamboo's offering that. And there are some other carriers maybe less well known that have also started to open up for condos. So I think those are all good signs.
That's great news, and how exciting that we found out today.
Yeah.
Basically when it just happened.
You heard it here first.
Absolutely, absolutely. All right. Go Sheppard Properties in Goosehead. Fantastic. So something that concerns our buyers, and a reason that we're so glad that we have you to connect with as the process starts, they don't know if they can afford the insurance policy when we get started on the process. And we actually like to be proactive, have our buyers reach out to you first. And if we're going to be writing on a property, if they have a serious interest in the property, and talk to you about getting an idea of what the policy would be for that property, based on features, based on location, as we're getting ready to craft an offer, to know that it's viable, because we don't want the deal to blow up a week into escrow or 2 or 3 weeks into escrow. And then once we do that and we successfully secure the property for our buyers, we want to make sure that within the first week of that escrow that they've already bound that policy, that you guys have it in place. So if you can talk to us a little bit about that process when our buyers reach out to you, what they can expect.
Yes, and it's really smart that you do that. It makes much more sense to have an idea of what they're getting into prior to making an
Yes.
offer, making sure that they can afford the insurance, rather than finding out after. So I just want to give you kudos.
Oh, well, nobody wants a deal to blow up. Nobody wants their heart broken. And it's our job and your job to let them know before we get knee deep into that process, because they don't buy homes every day. They don't get insurance every day. That's what we do. So when they reach out to you, how quickly is it realistic to think that they could get a quote from you? If we are, let's say we're bidding against other offers and we want to submit right away. So we're putting that offer together and they reach out to you. How quickly can you get them that quote?
Where our goal is to provide a quote within the same day.
Fantastic.
Yeah, there are certain exceptions, but I would say 98% of the time we'll be able to provide a quote the same day.
That's
So
great.
it's very quick.
And now something that Nicole has done for us on our listings, which is fabulous, before we even go live with a listing in the MLS, you've put together for us a flyer with a quote that we can use for our marketing purposes, for open houses. And it's a tool for sellers to show, hey, when you come into this home, just you're thinking because the insurance industry is such a mess right now and it's so expensive. I'm looking at this house, but I probably can't afford it because of the insurance. And then we're able to present to them We did this with, we had 3 properties listed within the same neighborhood all at the same time, and it's a high severity fire area. And you were able to provide quotes that no one believed were possible for that area, and they knew when they came into the open house. So that was outstanding, and that's something that you can do every time someone's getting ready to sell their home and they need to be able to show this is viable, you can afford this.
Yes, we're happy to do that. And we have found that has been really helpful. And we've had clients call from that flyer and say, yeah, we were looking at that home, fell in love with it, and we were happy to know we were able to afford the insurance.
Oh, that's outstanding. So we've been talking about buyers and sellers, but we are running into challenges with homeowners who aren't planning on going anywhere, but they're hearing from their carriers that they're not going to be renewed or that their rates are going to double. And obviously this is causing some major concerns for homeowners. We've talked to our clients who have reached out and said, I really don't know what I'm going to do. I can't pay this renewal. Or that their premium might double in the coming year, and not something that's viable. And as soon as we started to see this happening, we started reaching out to our past clients saying, if you're having a challenge with your homeowner's insurance, we have an amazing option for you. I do think it's really important if you can share with us what you can do for folks who find out that there's not going to be a renewal or that their rates are going to go up. Say they're with a major carrier right now. What can you do for them?
Yeah, excellent. I mean, we're a broker, so and what that means is we represent several different carriers instead of just one. So when one of your clients does have a non-renewal, and unfortunately that is more the norm, or they just get a crazy rate increase and something that's not affordable at all. So that's where, even with our existing clients, if they get a non-renewal from a carrier, they reach out to us. We'll just shop the market and then find another option. I mean, that's definitely one of our specialties.
That's excellent. And I know you've done that for our clients, and you did that for us with our own policy, which was incredible because ours was about to double, and it went up about $400 a year instead. So the savings was massive.
Great.
So thank you.
You're welcome.
So we've run into issues when someone's buying a home and say they have an old pool and it has a diving board, and the insurance company goes, nope, sorry, can't do that. You got to get rid of the diving board. Are there other things about a home that present challenges that we should be talking to you about, that our clients who are buying should be talking about, as far as roof or other conditions that they should know about and talk to you about?
Yes. Actually, in regards to the pool, because that one is a hot topic, so I want to mention that first. Yeah. Knowing that up front, and we'll take a look at the online listing and see, okay, there's a diving board, or there's a slide, or there's a pool that's not filled. We can address that quickly and then shop with a different carrier, maybe where that it's not an issue, where they can exclude coverage for incidents with the diving board. There's some creativity that we can have with still providing them some coverage.
So you can work around certain
absolutely
things. Interesting.
I'd say another hot topic is the roof. If it's an older roof, I know a lot of lenders require our RCV is the insurance terminology, but replacement cost on the roof. Right. So if it's older, your clients may have the intention of getting it replaced right away, or sometime in the next year. So that's something I think that comes up a lot, and then we can make adjustments with the carrier that we might choose that might be the best fit. And then even if it's temporarily, we can always move them back over to a different carrier once they've replaced the roof.
That's great.
There is that flexibility. I would say another thing that comes up a lot is either the existing home has a loss, or your client has a loss from their current home. That's going to transfer over. So that comes up quite a bit. So those are things that we sometimes have to navigate with carriers that are not, where the claim is not pulling up or is not going to rate as heavily.
Right. So for a property that someone's purchasing, obviously you look at loss history. And now this would be something that you would take care of at what point in the escrow process?
So that's right away. That's something that comes up right in the beginning for the quote. It's either going to pull up or it doesn't.
So when you get the quote, even if it's pre-escrow, you'll have that information that you need to give an accurate
We
quote.
run that. That's a hot topic. So we will run that up front. So the quotes that we present are always going to be approved, or we'll let you know it requires underwriting approval.
Perfect. And now something I didn't have in my notes, but I did want to talk to you about is non-admitted carriers. Because I know people get a little bit worried when they hear non-admitted in California. But there's also a lot of people who are taking policies now with non-admitted carriers out of necessity. Can you tell me how that impacts them, what the difference is between an admitted and a non-admitted carrier and how that impacts them?
Yes, I would say 3 years ago when we call it the shutdown, but when, the max exodus of carriers left California, pretty much all we were left with was Fair Plan and then a few non-admitted carriers, and people were just completely unfamiliar with it.
Right.
At least they thought they were unfamiliar with it. They have, Lloyd's of London
Right.
is, I think most people know, or at least have heard of. At one point, they were the first insurance company. They're non-admitted. Non-admitted just means that they're not licensed in the state of California.
Right.
But it's very intentional. By them not being licensed, they don't have to adhere to the really strict California regulations.
Right.
Whereas, carriers like Farmers and State Farm and Allstate, they do. So these non-admitted carriers have a lot of flexibility as far as who they could accept, what homes they'll be able to write, what premiums they can charge. So it's really the wave of California insurance. I would say
Right.
probably 60% of all the policies we do are non-admitted for California.
Amazing to hear that number, because I know people are concerned and they wonder if it's non-admitted, does that mean that I have to worry about their solvency? Does it mean I have to worry about coverage? And that's clearly not the case.
So, I mean, that's what it boils down to is the solvency. I would say financially, they're probably more stable than a lot of companies that are admitted. I mean, there's a lot of regulation that goes into them, even on the federal level. They're all A-rated carriers, the carriers that we personally deal with. There's SIGA, who's the California Insurance Guarantee Association. What is the benefit for an admitted carrier is in the event that an admitted carrier were to go under, SIGA steps in. That's the California Guarantee Association that steps in and makes good on any outstanding claims. That doesn't obviously take place with a non-admitted carrier. But like I said, they're very financially stable. I've been doing this over 25 years, and but in that period of time, I've seen in a property casualty, meaning a homeowners insurance carrier, go under twice. That was in Florida. I think that's because they have hurricanes and it's just really hard for them to stay in business. But any other, not that other home insurance or auto insurance policies don't ever have financial issues. They're just acquired by other carriers. Like Farmers is pretty infamous for doing that. They've acquired 21st Century, MetLife. I think I always flip it, but Nationwide, I think, acquired Allstate, or the other way around.
Okay.
So it's pretty common.
That brings up something else that I'm curious about with regard to Fair Plan. Can you talk about how Fair Plan funds, like how they handle a loss, and if it's my understanding that there are some guarantees in place for Fair Plan by the actual carriers in California. Is that true?
Kind of. Let me talk a moment about what Fair Plan is.
Yes,
I think
please.
there is a lot of confusion with most consumers of what that is. We always bundle it with two policies because California Fair Plan only covers you for fire, smoke, and wind.
Okay.
So then we would add on a supplemental policy. It's referred by all sorts of names, difference in conditions, DIC, supplemental wraparound. They're all the same thing.
Yeah.
That's going to cover them for water damage, liability, and theft. So the two policies together give them the same coverage as a traditional policy. And sometimes that coverage is going to be better than what we could offer with some other carriers, depending upon the situation.
Gotcha.
Sometimes it's less expensive. But as far as the viability, there's a lot of different thoughts on that. I did have a few clients that had claims with California Fair Plan from the Palisades last year.
Oh, my goodness.
Yeah. And they actually had I was so glad to hear it. They had very good claims experiences. They paid out very quickly.
Oh, that's good. That's good to hear.
So I have California Fair Plan personally, so I was
We do now too.
Yeah,
we do now too.
I was very relieved to hear that there was some positive experiences out there.
Very
but I
good.
think it's really how, and that's why you need a good agent. But
Yes.
it's how the coverage is built and layered to make sure that the client does still have good coverage.
Very good. And that takes me to another question that I'm getting from a lot of clients now is, do we really need to renew our earthquake? We've heard issues with CEA, and we don't think that they'll pay, and FEMA will take care of it. And how does that factor in? What can you tell us about earthquake coverage?
I'm personally really passionate about earthquake insurance.
Really?
I
Okay.
am. That's probably something we haven't talked about, but
No, we need to.
we will have an earthquake. It's just a matter of when, right? And
Yes.
how severe the next one is. Whereas we may never have a fire. We may never have a water claim or liability claim, but we will have an earthquake. So even in the event that there is an earthquake and we have significant damage on our home, we're still responsible to pay our mortgage.
Right.
So to me, that is a must. But that, sometimes it's just a matter of affordability.
Right.
I don't think in Santa Clarita, those rates are too crazy, but there are some different modifications, at least to help that. But I think it's worth definitely getting a quote, and then, clients can decide.
That's great information, because a lot of people are letting that go and deciding as they budget that that's not as important.
Mm-hmm.
Now, if someone puts in a claim, let's say we have an earthquake and there's an extensive amount of damage and you have a lot of claims, is there an end to the resources? When CEA runs out of money, then what happens?
Well, we have standalone carriers for that reason. So Giavera is probably the largest one, Arrowhead, Palomar. So there are some other standalone earthquake insurance companies that are very financially stable.
So those could be good options.
Very good options.
Oh, excellent.
Mm-hmm.
Excellent.
Sometimes the premiums are better. And a matter of fact, I feel like the coverage a lot of times is a lot more robust.
Fantastic. That's great news to know. So with all of this going on that we've discussed, obviously it's critical to work with the right insurance company. That's going to make all the difference. So if you can just kind of tell us again what it is that makes you guys different and why our clients should be calling you.
Yes, great question. So with Goosehead Insurance, we're the largest independent agency in the country. We have, collectively literally over 200 different carriers to choose from. Obviously, in California, that amount is a little smaller, but we can shop to really cover any of your client's insurance needs.
And all over the country.
All over the country. And then not just home, in earthquake and life and commercial and, for their toys and auto insurance. So.
Oh, yeah, we hadn't even touched on it, that you can take care of auto insurance as well. Mm-hmm. Do you have bundles? Does that, as a broker, is that similar to something that like a larger carrier would do?
Yes.
Oh, good.
So Mercury is one of the only options right now that we have as far as bundling. Stillwater is another major company that just opened up as well. So they're a great company. So they also have a bundle option. So we do have some, but definitely we're able to assist with all their insurance needs. I think sometimes it doesn't matter that the home and the auto are with the same insurance company as long as they're with the same broker. I think it's convenient that they can just make one phone call, one email. Can you send me proof of insurance for this, and they just make one call.
Well, and it's fantastic that we can share that now, because if someone was reaching out to you for their policy that they have currently that's about to go up, and they want to talk to you about a competitive quote on their home, that's a great time for them to talk to you about auto or life or any other needs that they have.
Exactly, because we already have a lot of their information anyway.
Fantastic. That's so great. So we wanted to share information about insurance. It is such a hot button right now, and we have an expert on our team, so we're so excited. Thank you, Nicole, for sharing all your expertise. We appreciate it.
Thank you for having me.
And we're going to cover more topics like this in the future that can help our clients who are buying, selling, or in some cases, just needing some assistance during their homeownership. Our information will be in the link. Nicole's information will be in the link as well. And if you need anything, you can reach us 24/7. We're always available to you guys. And we'll see you next time.